Welcome to episode 201 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How you doing, Warren?
I am doing well. It's good to be here. Good to meet, God, I have to have your name. I forgot. Michael. It's good to meet you. I understand.
Likewise, sir.
Yeah, I understand you were on the Jeff show last time. You were here, which
yes, yes,
and
yes.
It's a shame I missed it because it sounded like a hot interview going on. So I have to go back and listen to it again.
You have to go back and listen.
You missed out.
As he's saying, yes. Welcome back to the show, Michael D.J. Eisenberg, the tech savvy lawyer. Welcome back, Michael. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I appreciate being back on, seeing Jeff again, and you again, of course, and then meeting Warren for the first time on cam. But, it's a beautiful day here in the DC area, and I cannot complain about anything.
Great. And yes, he mentioned Jeff Gamet, as always, is here. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great. And I love that we have such a cool group of people.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun show here this week.
Our parents think we're cool. My mom thinks we're
cool. That's right.
We take it as we can get it, Warren.
Okay.
Yes, we can. So we got some good topics here. As we record this, Apple announced their quarterly earnings, and what a surprise! They were great. And beta got released here. We're going to talk about a legal topic this week since Michael is here, and the repair. The tools are out. We're going to have some fun with that, and maybe a few tips depending on where the time goes here. But let's just jump right into the news for this week. First story here is the EU is moving one step closer to mandating Apple to switch iPhone, iPad, and AirPods to USB-C. Members of the European Parliament this week have voted overwhelmingly in support of the legislation that will compel Apple to offer USB-C ports on all iPhones. And well, iPads have, most of them are, and then AirPods in Europe. Proposals known as a directive will force all consumer electronics manufacturers who sell devices in Europe to ensure that all the phones, tablets, laptops, digital cameras, all electronics are using USB-C port to keep it universal. So this is going to be an interesting thing to see where it goes. I mean, obviously in Europe, it's not affecting us who are all here in the United States, but you never know what's going to happen. Michael, what do you think? I think this is something that I think it's overdue with the iPhone. Honestly, we've been talking about this quite a bit on the show here about the Lightning ports. It's getting a little old.
Well, one thing I ended up watching an old review of what was anticipated from the iPhone 12, and part of it was being just completely input cordless. And if you're going to end up powering it just with a pad, with the premium, I'm remembering the right term, but without a wireless port that to charge your phone, I'm kind of like, is this rule going to be necessary in the long run? And then on top of that, I don't like how governments are telling a manufacturer how they have to create their device. Obviously, certain things like how electrical input, output, that kind of stuff, as to what type of voltage and amperes is necessary. But to say you have to use this port versus that port, well, yeah. That's in part what distinguishes Apple from its competitors. So, should all cars have four wheels? Yes. Should all phones have a way to be able to charge it or to transfer data? Yes. But you don't tell the company, well, these are the types of tires you have to use. You have to use Goodyear versus Michelin because this is what we prefer. I think it needs to be a customer choice, not a government mandated order.
Jeff, you have thoughts?
Of course I do.
I know you do.
It's like you know me. Okay, so I'm glad you pointed out that this isn't an Apple-specific thing, but right. Apple is getting the spotlight because that makes for better news. Michael, I'm with you. I don't like the idea of a government agency dictating product design like this. Mm-hmm. What I see happening if this becomes a requirement is that ultimately device makers stop innovating with what they're doing right. with input and output, because there's no value in it for them anymore because they can't do it. and then ultimately that has repercussions that lawmakers don't anticipate, because why would they? This isn't the sort of thing that they really get by and large. So I see this as an unintentional, artificial stalling of technology.
Yeah.
So does that mean? I mean, I'm with you, Jeff, and I got to wonder. Like, so fine, Apple and others are possibly moving toward just having a cordless way of charging their phones. But are you saying they can't do that because they have to have this type of port or this type of input?
That's actually a good question. And I don't know if it dictates that a port must be on the device or not.
But it's still, even if whether it does or it doesn't, it still invites that, oh, yes, all cell phones must have this type of port in order to charge it or to transfer the data, or does that mean every phone has to have a headphone jack? Does every phone has to have a certain refresh rate, a certain type of color gamut? I mean, a certain battery, certain battery capacity. Apple's, their phones and their iPads have lower capacity batteries, not because they lose out in the longevity of the charge, but because their operating system works more efficiently. So they don't need the higher charge capacity as other iPhones do, because, Android and the others just don't run as efficiently as the iOS. So you're kind of killing it for being efficient. And you say, well, no, you have to have this more chargeable battery, a longer life, if you will, because all the others do too. But that may not be part of the design, the overall design of what they're trying to do. So it doesn't make sense to tell industries this is how you have to design your cars. Obviously, things like you have to have a gas tank, but on the other hand, does it have to be to the specific design that the government wants, as long as it's safe and passes all the safety protocols?
It should be Apple's choice.
So,
I mean, that's really what it is. So, but
so real fast.
But it comes to the user. It's going to be the market, because quite frankly, if Apple or anyone comes out with a design that quite frankly this sucks, they're not going to buy it.
Well,
I'm sorry.
That's my point.
You have the final word, Warren. You have the final word, Warren.
So my point is, I sometimes go to secondhand stores or used to look at the electronics, and in there you will find a pile of iPod docks with the 36-pin connector in there.
30-pin.
So there was a period of fits and people screaming and crying when we moved away from that to Lightning, because people buy things all over their house that work with that. That will happen again, and Apple does. That is why we still have Lightning. That's the only reason we still have Lightning, is because Apple knows that there will be a good amount of people, and there's a population out there that have a bunch of accessories built for Lightning. I don't think there's as much as there was back in the day, obviously, because of Bluetooth. And there's more Bluetooth options out there than there were back then. So anytime you wanted to hear music, you would pop something in a dock or something like that. But they still exist, and there's still things out there. Plus the influx of cables we have and charging docks and all that stuff that we bought along the way will change. So I mean, the EU's doing it to help people, and their reasoning, I think, probably is to do with just ease of use, less confusion, right? Because people, believe me, I've supported people, and my mom included, where she got an iPad and she got a Pro, and she's like calling me because she's trying to stick the lightning cable into it and it's not working. So people do, it's confusing.
So if I can ask the group,
Just one. Go ahead. One more, and I want to move on here because with the last topic
sure. If I can ask the group, how many of you have fairly recently new cars? And so the reason why I ask this is I leased my car through my business, and the car comes with a wireless charging position for my phone. Yeah. So a pad, thank you. And so I have a feeling that just inherently we're going to end up moving in that direction, and people are not going to want the wires anymore.
No, but there is the problem is the port doesn't just do charging, and the port does
the data, things, audio, all kinds of stuff.
So that's the problem. If they could figure out how to magnetically, and I'm not saying they can't, because I think that's in the works of them coming up with something that looks like the MagSafe wallet that basically has ports on it, or something like that, where you could connect whatever you need to connect to it, because that's what people want.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Next story. This is a quick one. This story, Apple did release a firmware update to the AirTag. It released a new firmware upgrade that was for the AirTag trackers, as we all know and love. Build numbers now from 1A301 up from 1A291. And as always, we have no word and no idea what the heck they did to update it at this point. And
we're not spending 15 minutes on this one because
no, we're not. That's why I'm just going quick with this.
But there's nothing to talk about.
Because there really isn't much to say.
Jeff, go ahead. Tell us.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I just wanted to say, because you said we're not going to talk for 15 minutes on this.
But I don't think there's nothing really.
But all the privacy issues that we could talk about on the AirTags, we could certainly infer.
Oh, we've covered that plenty of times.
We're just talking about I don't know. Maybe the firmware erases people's memory of the problems of the AirTag.
Warren, I think you're right, because I've updated my firmware 3 times, and each time it's a surprise to me.
Right.
I know we can't actually do that.
And who are you?
Oh no. Oh no.
It's that firmware.
All right.
Damn firmware.
Let's go ahead. Next story here. This is about the App Store downloads. Worldwide App Store downloads reaches 8.6 billion in the Q1 of 2022. Worldwide App Store downloads grew 2.4% and hit that 8.6 billion mark in the first quarter of 2022, according to data shared today by Sensor Tower. Between the App Store and the Google Play Store, there were 36.9 billion total app downloads, which is only an increase of about 1.4%. As there are far more Android users than there are iPhone users worldwide, there were a much higher number of apps downloaded on the Android devices. Google Play downloads hit 28.3 billion during the quarter. So interesting to look here where they got some graphics here with the top apps here. What a surprise. TikTok and YouTube are number 1 and 2. And it goes down the line here. But obviously apps are going to just continue to evolve in iOS as well as Android, but I can't see a change anytime soon. What do you guys think?
I think the list of apps is very interesting.
It is.
Yeah. When you look at App Store worldwide,
Subway Surfers.
Yeah.
It's number 1. What is that?
It's I don't know. What is that? But and then there's the other
lot of games
that shows
Subway Surfers was communication
stuff.
Seriously, you don't know Subway Surfers?
I don't. Is that a game?
Yeah. So when where you flick the guy up? Come on.
Yeah, I'm not a gamer, so I mean,
it's not. You don't have to be a gamer. You have to be 51 years old like the rest of us. It's a game that was popular about 10 years ago. We were younger. Go ahead.
So also interesting, right under Subway Surfers, that I didn't know about because I'm just lame. Sorry, Wordle.
Wordle, excuse me.
To me, that's actually a problem because there is no official Wordle app.
There is no official. Yeah.
So that's to me that's a problem with App Store's system because that should not even be there.
Yep. So just interesting info there. Let's move on to next story here. Apple Podcasts added 3 new Apple Podcast collections they launched. It's covering true crime, vital perspectives, and pop culture. Apple has now thrown the covers of the 3 new podcast collections, which is free genre-specific playlists that are updated every week and cover some content and recommendations encompassing true crime, culture, and entertainment. True crime is a very, very hot topic for many people. A lot of great podcasts out there on just that alone. I'm glad to see Apple doing this. I mean, I think this is just like they do with News Plus and with Apple Music for that matter. They have a lot of great staff that are great curators of this information, and Apple obviously is in full tilt with podcasts. What do you think, Michael?
I use Overcast, so I don't use the Apple Podcast platform, and so I'm just not looking at this. I am a true crime podcast fiend. I love listening to Dateline, which is an NBC show that's been on for 30 years,
Ever.
and and they've been like, yes, they replay the old ones. And quite frankly, I find that to be like mind candy for me, just to kind of sit back and relax and to listen to one of the hosts kind of meander through the story, even if I know what the ending's going to be. But, it's always good to make things accessible and easy to find when you're interested in certain topics. So it's a good thing. And, but I just use Overcast, so I don't play with the Apple
that's okay
platform.
I just think it's a great way to aggregate, and Overcast does its thing. I use Pocket Cast. There's a lot of good places there. Jeff, any thoughts on this?
Yes, discoverability is an ongoing problem, and I like seeing Apple proactively doing something to try and address this, because that's clearly what this is about: discovering new shows.
Exactly. And how about you, Warren?
No, we touched on it last time, Tuesday, but I did check out the collection after you mentioned it, that you brought it up last Tuesday. And, it's not for me, but it's not a bad thing either. So.
Absolutely. All right. Next story here. New Apple Card promotion offers $75 daily cash bonus for new referrals. Apple's bringing back a lucrative Apple Card promotion for new users. The company's announcing today, this was a couple days ago as we record this, those who are new users of Apple Card were referred by existing users can secure a $75 bonus after making their first purchase. It's in the bonus of a daily cash. So looks like Apple's continuing to evolve this Apple Card. I'm a happy Apple Card user, and I like all the convenience of it. I like Goldman Sachs has been very good with customer service. So I think I'm happy to see that they continue to evolve with this, and Apple will continue to be pushing all of this as one of their services. So what do you think, Jeff?
I think this is just part of Apple showing us that they're very serious about being in the financial space. And my Apple Card, I'm using it exclusively for all of my Apple-related purchases.
There you go. 3%.
Yeah. So, 3% back on iCloud every month and everything, all the subscriptions that I'm paying for through Apple. And it's not $75 daily cash bonus, but that's okay.
One time. You guys have any thoughts? Do you have an Apple Card, Michael?
No, I don't. I applied for it like probably a year and a half ago. They said I wasn't qualified. I don't know why. I do not have excellent credit, but I have very good credit. So I was a little bit surprised. But if either you two want to quote unquote refer me and get the cashback bonus, please feel free. Not that, of course, the referral in itself guarantees, acceptance. But didn't the card? Aren't they doing something now with Visa? Didn't they switch the provider, or they're merging with Visa?
No, they went to MasterCard because their previous when they had the card before, which was through Barclays, It was a Visa. Then when they moved to the Apple Card, it's now MasterCard. They went MasterCard.
Okay. I thought I had seen that they were back to Visa or something. Something weird had happened.
Somebody I think was switching. Don't think it was the Apple Card. But
now, mind you, I don't have an Apple Card, so I wasn't really paying attention.
It's okay. Not a biggie. Warren, any thoughts before we move on?
Well, I'm just keeping mine shiny until the new whatever comes out next.
All right.
Polishing it up.
As I expected.
Yep.
And then this last story here, this past week, Apple has more problems reported with Apple Music and the App Store services. A couple days ago, actually early this week, users again were finding outages with Apple services, although it was limited to intermittent issues with the App Store and with Apple Music. Just over a month after Apple's iCloud services saw some downtime across the board, users were finding more issues. One regarding Apple Pay and Wallet was resolved within an hour on the 24th of April as we record this. But everything looks good now. And ironically, I more reason that caught my eye here. I was trying to set up my Sonos Move for a party that we were having here. And I go and say, hey, lady, because it's got the Amazon Echo on it. Played this music on, and then it automatically was linked to my Apple Music account, and it'd say, okay, here's the song on Apple Music, and then you hear silence. It doesn't say and play anything. I'm like, what is going on? And me being a tech guy as I am, I'm gonna say, okay, I got to start tearing things out, reinstalling. I gave up, and then I just moved on to the HomePod Mini I had, and moved that downstairs instead, which worked fine, which is weird. So yeah, so obviously services were intermittent. So, but no surprise there. I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
Yes. This is so frustrating.
I'm getting tired of it actually because it keeps happening.
It happens all the time, and I've had so many problems with my HomePod that I don't know if it's my HomePod or if it's like music is just down. And it's gotten to the point where, I'm not kidding, over the last week, instead of streaming music all the time, I'm just playing straight from my personal library, and that's it.
Okay.
And why can't I tell my HomePod to play the music that's connected to, or that's in my music library on my Mac?
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah,
frustrating.
All right, I'm done complaining.
It's okay. You're allowed to.
Well,
my quick thought that you could go is, why wasn't I invited to the party? Go ahead. Sorry.
Because it wasn't my party.
Okay, sure.
It was the wife's party.
My comment was sort of on Jeff's. I have a HomePod as well, and it doesn't work as well as I'd like it to. And I just, of all the things I need to be doing around here, that's just low on the list of, I need to fix it.
Yep. All right. That was the news for this week. Let's move on to some more news, which is a topic for this week. And as we record today, Apple announced its Q2 2022 quarterly results. And surprise, another record, 97 billion quarter. On Thursday, Apple announced its results for that second quarter. It was 97.3 billion in revenue, with all-time quarterly records for both all of iPhone, Mac, and the wearables sales. So going down here, and we have a link in the show notes for a great resource, 6 Colors and Jason Snell. That's the first time I've seen them actually do a chart party on YouTube. I'll talk about it. I have to go back and go watch that. That's probably kind of fun. So they broke down the revenue by category, and no surprise, iPhone is dominant at 52% of the sales. And you have services moved up to now 20%, and it keeps growing. iPad's at 8%, wearables at 9%, Mac at 11%. Mac did really well at 10.4 billion, which is pretty amazing. All the numbers except for iPad, which kind of dropped a little bit, from quarter to quarter here. But glad to see the good numbers. Services are doing well. Apple's making money, but of course the stock market's going to tank because they're doomed.
Well, if any company is currently flush enough to be buying Twitter, it would be this one, say perhaps others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But numbers are fresh. Like I said, it just got announced today, but I just wanted to make sure we talked about it today since it happened today. But numbers look good. I don't know what else we could say here. The wearables look good. 8.8 billion. Revenue change was 12% on the wearables, so it was a drop a little bit from the first quarter, but that's okay. But profit 25 billion. Can't complain about that at all.
Right now, Apple's only enemy is itself, because it makes good quality, long-lasting products that people at some point are going to start contracting and saying, "Oh, I can wait."
Yeah, no, I agree. So, but yeah, that's what we touched on. That is, you guys have anything else that you wanted to add about the results from today?
Q2 is always less than Q1, so the people that are freaking out and saying numbers are down.
Exactly.
Q1 is the holiday buying quarter for Apple. So, yeah. And Michael, your comment is awesome about people waiting. And I think that's actually baked into what Apple does with their projections, because Apple knows how long people hold on to devices, and they know what the cycles are. So while people are holding on to devices for, let's just say 5 years, I'm totally pulling that number out of my butt. Apple knows that, and they and so they know when those people are going to be upgrading, and they account for that.
Yeah,
I was talking to an attorney today who's got a 2017 machine that I think she's looking to upgrade, and a 2019 machine she's looking to upgrade. Speaking of that 5-year cycle, I, on the other hand, try to upgrade every 3 years, just because I like them.
That's pretty consistent of most companies, even with PCs. Me working in the enterprise, 3 and 4 years is pretty standard as for upgrades for companies.
Yeah, that makes sense. A 3-year cycle makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I mean, I have I have a little bias here, because I rarely find that the Windows machines that I use last 3 years.
Well, enterprise does hold them 3 years, so. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, true.
iPhones, iPhones and iPads, I could say I would average probably, I could see 3, 4, 5 years sometimes, depending on the person. Us, every year, at least me and Warren anyway. I don't know if you upgrade every year, Michael, but
3 years.
iPhones, I do iPhones
iPhone.
every year. Yeah,
I'm on their
training
leasing program. Yeah. Love it.
I give it, it's about 5 years. Like, computers could last, whether it's a Mac or a Windows computer at this point, is about a 5. So what I've always told people who come to me to fix their computers, if it's 5 years or older, don't invest money into it. If it's 5 years and newer, maybe it might be. So it seems to be my gauge is about, not for me, of course, because that's gross.
You buy something every
because I wouldn't own anything more than 2 years old.
Once the new smell device is gone, throw it away. Get a new one.
Yes, it's all yes.
Come on. We know Warren's buying things every day.
I'm
just kidding. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Beta this week, iOS 15.5 beta 3 just dropped about 2 days ago, I believe. A few changes here and there, nothing too crazy. And Warren, of course, you being our beta person who lives on the edge and upgrades every single one of your devices in the production that you do. Have you seen any changes?
No, I fixed a couple things that the one before broke, so that's good.
What was the problem?
The last beta before this did something with shortcuts where every time you ran a shortcut, no matter what you set, it would still prompt you, say, tap here to run the shortcut, even though it's,
that's kind of a nasty bug.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When I was triggering shortcuts from my iPad that's on beta, and I had to...
It did the same thing,
Yeah, and I'm like, I thought I had that turned off.
Yeah, that's a pain in the ass, because like when I'm driving, back, the shortcuts are my garage door opener. So, it's enough work. It's hard enough work just to get my phone out to open up my garage door. Then I'm, like putting the phone down and it's like waiting. My garage door is not opening. Why isn't my garage door opening? Oh, well, I look at my phone and says, no, now I got to push. Okay. So I fixed that. But other than that, nothing crazy.
The watch is still nothing. We'll say that. tvOS, nothing. iPad's about this.
Sometimes I see anything. Sometimes I could see in the beta cycles between the watch and a phone. It's always it's either the iPhone unlocks the phone. The iPhone unlocks the watch, like you put on your watch and then you unlock your phone and then your watch unlocks. So between these beta cycles, sometimes it works so fast that you don't even see the message up on top that says unlock your watch. And just sometimes it doesn't work at all. So, if it's somewhere in the middle, it's a good day because then, I'm not sure what to do at that point. And I could unlock it, on the watch itself. But in my mind, I know these guys aren't talking to each other. I'm going to do that and something's wrong. So I just reboot the watch. But it's all good.
Okay.
Jeff,
Michael, you don't dabble anything beta, right? I'm assuming.
I never dabble anything beta because of the law firm. And, the last thing I need to do is have problems because the beta didn't work quite right. Because I don't think the judge is really going to care that let me rephrase it. They're going to care. They're not going to be happy that, I'm playing with the beta, but
good move. One thing I did find that 9 to 5 Mac was this link in the show notes that the beta is blocking sensitive locations from memories in the Photos app. This was in the third beta, as we're talking about. If you're not familiar, Memories is a feature of the Photos app that allows iOS and Mac OS to recognize people, places, and events in your photo library and automatically create a curated collection of memories, like a slideshow.
What's a sensitive location?
Sensitive locations.
That's like when you go on a trip and it's really bad and you just don't want to remember it, but you still have the photos.
I thought it was going to be like a location of my body, like it's the. No longer they can have pictures of my thigh because that's the sensitive location of my body.
I guess a location. Well, in this case, the sensitive location, and interestingly, they found banning versions of anything related to the Holocaust, which was kind of strange.
But if you're taking a picture, if you're taking a picture of it, yeah, I know. But if you're taking a picture, I mean.
Well, like things like the Anne Frank House or the U.S. Holocaust Museum or anything related to that the sensitive locations. I mean, obviously it's beta. They're probably going to put more and more places that are related to being sensitive. I would guess to say for the memories. But it's kind of strange. I don't think a lot of us are going to go on vacation to go to a place that's a sensitive location.
I mean, a lot of people don't take pictures of things that. That they don't want to see again ever, because that's not why you take a picture of it.
Exactly.
I mean, so why wouldn't I? I mean,
it's very strange.
I have a guy, a friend on Facebook that posted yesterday, and I didn't do this, but he did it. But he had to put his dog to sleep, and he posted like the pictures of him like next to the dog. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that when we did ours, but I mean,
right.
I guess. That if you knew that, like something, maybe you don't want to see the memory of that. But again,
I don't know if they'll know that.
Yeah, but you're taking these pictures for a reason. I mean,
right?
I'm not taking. If I'm taking pictures of the Anne Frank house, I want to see it. I want to see the memories. This is last year you were
the
in
trip I was on.
At the Anne Frank house.
Did you have thoughts, Michael? You wanted to
I'm a little bit disturbed by this because this seems to be some sort of censorship that I just don't like. And mind you, on a very extreme flip side, I could see like if the memories issue was, on something public that other people could see, and like hate crime groups or Nazis or whoever wanted to somehow use that. But this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is on your own photos library. So if my family and I go to, say, the Holocaust Museum and we're taking pictures, it's because we want to learn and remember. And quite frankly, if you ask in this situation, I think if you ask any Jew to talk about any of these sites, it's always about remember the atrocity, learn from the atrocity so it does not repeat itself. And if you can't curate that kind of information just for yourself, it seems awfully weird. Does that mean if I go to the White House because it's a sensitive area, it's not going to curate my trip to the White House?
Again, this is beta, so I'm thinking Apple is trying to experiment with something related to sensitive locations. We just don't know yet, and again, Apple never officially announced or as just as a disclaimer, when we look at these articles, all these sites are looking at things that they happen to find in code.
Just as a side note with this, though, is the Photos app is the AI is pretty good. If you start searching things in the Photo app, some things like, it's pretty sharp. Like if you search dogs, it will pick up, it obviously knows dogs and faces and humans and stuff like that. But if you type in like red, it will pull up like a lot of red pictures, things like that. It's kind of neat, actually.
But, let's take it to the next step. What about when Facebook and Twitter starts banning certain location pictures because this was taken at the Anne Frank house, this was taken at the White House? If it starts automatically doing this, because quite frankly, going back to the whole memory bit I was referring to, my trip to the Holocaust Museum with my family on Facebook, I want people to know and remember we were there for a reason. And if this is going to be started to be automatically banned and there's going to be censorship, that's a huge problem in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, this is not censorship, just to Jeff's point. It's not censoring anything. It's just the memories when it first came out was kind of a weird thing too. When I first saw my first memory thing, I'm like, this is a little spooky and I'm a little weirded out by it.
Well, anyway, but I understand what it is and what it does. And also, I'm not just referring to the photos. I'm also referring to other programs using it in such a way as to become censorship.
Right. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and move on. This is the topic for the show this week. Michael, with your legal expertise, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. This interesting, the fact of being able to record phone conversations in this day and age with technology. Old days, I think about 80s, you would have a handheld recorder. You'd be recording something on tape, right? Well, in this day and age with an iPhone, you pretty much could record any conversation you wanted to with recording and without their prior knowledge, and you have to be a little wary of the legal restrictions that are part of it. Even companies these days, you can record something. They're doing it now during like a Teams call or like what we're using right now on Zoom. You can record something. Obviously, you guys are automatically being notified this is being recorded, and you have the option to leave the room. And it was only until like recently, within the last year or two, that Zoom and Teams and others were adding that disclaimer when you would go to start a recording, and it wouldn't pop up right away. At least on Teams, I remember it wasn't for a long period of time. So, when I went to stream on YouTube and when I went to record this show, it's going to tell you, hey, this is being recorded, and it gives you the option to opt out. But I think really the deal with it is the fact is just, is this ever going to be illegal? And I can't see it ever being legal per se, but how are you going to stop people from recording this stuff?
Well, so forgive me, I got to start off with the caveat. I'm not offering any legal advice.
Absolutely.
No offense. We're not forming an attorney-client relationship. These are my own personal thoughts in general. So, you talked about the early days of the 1980s. Let's remember, this started a century prior with things like the telegram. And if I remember my case law correctly, a telegram between the person who's sending it and the recipient, the privilege came with the sender. And whether or not he wanted to, release the privilege of the communication between the two to the public was up to the sender. So now we have telephones, and the laws sort of evolved, and now we have iPhone communication, data communications. What are the laws there? And I'm sure they're going to be adapted so much to the same degree as they have been in the past. However, the federal courts or federal law basically says that, it's a free for all. You can record all you want. It then becomes up to the individual states if they have something more restrictive. And a lot of states have at least a one party requirement to consent to, releasing confidentiality, and also, I shouldn't say releasing confidentiality, at least to record the conversation. So in a sense, it really doesn't matter. But if, of course, you have one state that allows it requires just one person, another state that requires two people, and you're having across the country communication, that becomes a problem. And then on top of that, let's think about that. The conversation isn't just going like me here and you're in Illinois, but also the data is going through all these data banks, and servers in different states, in different countries. And then you got to rely on, well, if it went into this state, and this requires, both parties' consent, but this state doesn't require anyone's party's consent. And then it goes over to another country in Europe or South America or wherever, where their laws are completely different. It causes a whole slew of problems that, I'm sure a very expensive attorney will someday get into from a very expensive or well-to-do client to contest having his or her recordings, his communications recorded. But from a privacy aspect that Apple comes from, I don't ever see this really happening, because my concern would be is a third-party app that somehow gets in there so that a third person, not part of the conversation, is, doing something scandalous and nefarious and recording, a conversation. Because look what happened with the celebrity pictures that from the iPhone iCloud break, and how people's private photos got out there. It embarrassed a lot of people. So I would think that Apple would be more restrictive on this, because quite frankly, I also assume they don't want to be sued because somehow someone else broke into, or the other person was recording without the other person's permission. And, that sort of bothers me as a professional, because if I'm interviewing initial clients or having a conversation with my client, or potential clients, and having a conversation with my client, I don't want to have to worry about my conversation being recorded, because heavens forbid I say something not quite right or a little bit inarticulate, or pieces are taken and patched together to have me say something. Well, my attorney said, I was going to win $1 million, and here's the recording, but it's taken it completely out of context, and I get sued. It's just it's a huge uphill battle to fight. It's an expensive battle, because then you got to hire experts and other attorneys. I just see this as I'm going to be disappointed if Apple, in its privacy flag, allows this kind of action to take place. I guess I don't understand why you feel, maybe I shouldn't say you personally, but at least the three of you, some of you feel that, I want to be able to have the opportunity to record a phone conversation on my iPhone when I talk to another company, because, hey, they're recording me. Well, what is it you're going to be able to use that recording for? Is the average user going to take that recording and take them to court and, hire an attorney to go and battle it out? Because I got news for you. Your case probably relies more on just that one recording.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Well, what's to say, this day and age in social media, people using their iPhones, or any iPhone for that matter, to record a video. When an incident happens, someone's going to record something that happens. Is there any big difference between those two?
I think there's a huge difference, because if you and I are having a private conversation, you and I are the understanding that it's a private conversation, whether it's just you and I talking, or about our lives, or if you're like, hey, Michael, I need to talk to an attorney. I mean, how would you feel if I recorded every professional conversation I had with a client? The client would feel less likely inclined to reveal some of the confidential facts that are required for me to provide a adequate and proper representation. Now, when you're saying taking a video of a car accident or an incident on the plane, you're in the public realm.
That's true.
You have no right to privacy. So whether you're recording a Karen or a Ken on an airplane, or a car accident in public, or doing your own personal videos for OnlyFans, that's all going to be,
Jeff's favorite website.
I'm going to get rich.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, please don't tell me what your account is.
What's it worth to you for me to not tell you? This is actually how I'll make money off OnlyFans. The more you pay me, the less likely it is that you will find out what my URL is.
Oh, so you're an anti-content creator. Okay.
It's a new model.
It's a new model.
Anyway, but I was thinking about this earlier. The thing is, if you don't want somebody to know something, basically, you don't want the world to know something. 3 simple rules. 1, don't say it. Don't say it out loud. Okay. 2, don't write it down. Whether it's in a journal, a letter, a memo, don't write it down.
Email.
Or 3, email. Don't send an email going, oh, yeah, of course I sexually harassed whoever. And believe it or not, there are a lot of stupid people that do stuff like that. Hey, I sexually harassed this person at work, or I discriminated against this person because of whatever. They put that in emails. And so when you get that smoking gun, fantastic. Does it come in handy when you get an audio recording, like we're hearing from some of the Republicans regarding the January 6th attack? Yeah. And first of all, their stupid moment was to actually have that conversation.
Right.
And if they hadn't had that conversation, whether it's over the phone or in person or, by webinar, it couldn't have been recorded. So if you're going to be stupid, you're going to be stupid and you're going to get caught. Now, as to the legalities, as to like those recordings that we've heard, which I believe were done by phone,
right.
That's another interesting aspect, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Try not to get too much into politics, but this is a really good point of, recording and not recording phone calls.
Excellent.
Was I forgive me? Was I clear?
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, you have comments, I know.
Yes, I do. Okay, so Michael, now we get into the part where apparently I'm just interviewing you. So I find this whole topic incredibly fascinating, and I live in a state where you have single party consent, and you don't have to give the other person notice of the consent. And I'm certain the way it's set up that way is because it makes it a lot easier for law enforcement to record calls that they don't want people to know or be recorded in the moment. So anyhow, I look at this and I see we have a legal aspect of recording, and then we have the ethical aspect. So, ethically, if you're living in a place where legally, like Colorado, where you can record something and you don't have to tell anyone you're doing it, should you still do that?
I think that the other party should really be questioning who they're talking to begin with. And I want to say something you said one step back. You talked about for law enforcement. I was doing some research and I came across a case from actually, I think the 1940s, where law enforcement didn't get a warrant for a wiretap. Instead, what they did is they listened in on an extension. And the question
like
became,
a party line thing.
A party line, right. And I believe the court said, no, this is wrong. And the conviction is tossed because it wasn't done right. So, but that's slightly off topic of
but
what we're talking about today. Yes, yeah, it relates to this. I mean, because quite frankly, I started delving into this. I'm like, I could write a huge paper on wiretapping and recording calls. But the problem is people hire attorneys because, quite frankly, the other person, at least the clients I used to get sometimes, because the other person or the other party wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. I'm trying to be ethical. I always think I'm ethical, but you're dealing with other parties who, quite frankly, aren't. And those are the ones that I'm worried about. I'm not worried about you or David, maybe Warren, recording my calls.
Yeah.
But
I don't blame you.
You know, there's going to be someone nefarious that's going to be recording a call that they shouldn't be. And then, you know, and then the problem is going to come back and bite you. I mean, we could talk about the whole Johnny Depp, Amber Heard divorce proceedings and all the recordings and the bits and the pieces and what I don't want to get into it. But, you know, there's at least one party there who, you know, isn't playing kosher and doesn't have the ethics. And the problem is we live in a world where people aren't ethical. I'm not saying everyone, I'm just saying, and the problem is the people who are ethical or who try to do right, they're the ones that usually get screwed over. And that's what I'm worried about, the ability of recording calls through your phone. Yes, there are workarounds. Yes, there are means, but when you have to do those workarounds, that really goes to show the intent of the party trying to make the recording. And quite frankly, they are trying to do something nefarious. But if you can do it in such a way that it's just automatic, oh, Your Honor, I just made a mistake. I flipped the wrong button. I didn't mean to record this, but look what happened. You know, I just don't like. And then, of course, you know, what about and forgive me, Jeff, if I'm going a little either long tooth or off topic. But, you know, with the whole work from home environment we're in because of COVID, and now it's becoming somewhat hybrid, do you want your employers who provide you with your technology to be able to be constantly recording your calls and interactions? And if I have to call my wife and talk about something sensitive, or, you know, to be blunt, if I talked to my wife and had something a little too inappropriate for work, do I want my office to be recording this kind of stuff?
Well, stop there, because that was my question real fast. Because doesn't the employer have a right to record? Does an employer have a right to record your conversations? Because I know mine is, because I do customer service work, and they tell me they do sometimes, where they can listen to it.
You know, that's funny because I've seen cases where technically that's not allowed. And remember, they're not recording you because they're monitoring you personally. They're recording you because they want to, quote unquote, provide quality assurance.
Right.
So
you hear that disclaimer all the time.
Yeah, it's a horse hockey workaround. But when I call for my research, basically there is a law that says that your employer cannot record you. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, because it does. And actually, there was a law firm, I want to say in Chicago, that got in trouble because they were obsessed with recording all of the actions of what their employees were doing.
But I think, I mean, as far as I know, they're pretty open about it and they do it. But I mean, in your example with the, you know, personal phone calls, don't use a company equipment to call your wife. I mean, that's what I would say if I was an employer.
Right. But sometimes there's a right. But remember, going back to the 80s for David, when I was a teenager, I remember my family, we knew the president of a construction company out east. And one of his biggest complaints was, why are my employees using their work phones to make personal calls? And, sometimes it's just, back in the 80s, because we didn't have cell phones, or it would have been less productive to have that person run down out the door on the street and use a payphone, because it was more of a convenience.
Right.
And again, sometimes it's just simply the convenience of, I'm not paying attention. Or
if I'm on a company equipment, whether I'm home or in office, I will make the assumption in my mind that there's a possibility of them recording what's going on here, especially with we got Cisco phones nowadays, and then we got voice over IP and all the good stuff. And I work in IT, and I haven't come across like that. I haven't come across like anybody coming to me and say, can we listen to these phone calls? But I'm sure you could, and I'm sure it's out there.
Sure.
But let's flip this for just a second. What about places where you have to bring your own device? And in order to use your device, you have to use a certain set of software applications on your phone that, because you click accept and you don't read through that whole, 10 pages and 12 point or 6-point font of all the little requirements and waivers that you're provided, which includes their ability to record on your personal phone in order to use their software. And they're recording everything because you gave up that right somewhat unknowingly.
I mean, Dave and I will probably know that, profiles and MDM and Jamf, as far as I know, it kind of tells you, it spells out to you what the phone is doing when you.
Oh, absolutely.
When
you can see.
up. Dave, you're muted, but is that right or not?
Yeah, that is right. I mean, you go into Jamf and you can see what activity is going on, whether it being an iOS device or a Mac.
But the users, even when you install it, it actually will say when you install the profile, like for a company, a lot of times it says if you even go to the profile and go into this, the details, it tells you what it's doing.
Yeah.
Could they? I guess, but I mean, again, I'm working. I have a work laptop now. I have a Cisco phone. I got the whole setup now. That's work, and I'm not touching that in personal situations.
Makes sense. So this is a fascinating conversation. I just want to wrap things up because there's one more topic we want to get to.
I wanted to talk about fruit of the poisonous tree.
Go ahead. You'll get the last word, Jeff.
The tree?
Yeah. What? Okay. So let's say we have a situation, and this is totally hypothetical, of course. Say we have a situation, like January 6th investigations, where people are probably recording stuff that's going on in their conversations, unbeknownst to other people. And I believe that's in an area where you need two-party consent and all that. And then they find out, holy crap, I have this recording of this person saying, detailing exactly what they're going to do as part of this coup, this insurrection. And I just need to give this to the police. And they do. But they violated the law by making the recording because they didn't tell the other person and get mutual consent.
I think there is an exception there.
Because they're not an agent of the state at that point, right? Well,
they're not an agent of the state, but they are reporting a crime. So if you and I are having a conversation, just as two normal people, not attorneys, and you're like, hey, you know something? I'm going to go kill that guy in an hour. Basically, I report that to the police. The cops are not going to come after me and go, oh, well, you recorded that call or kind of thing. Or even with attorneys, like if I was an attorney and you called me and you were saying, hey, I'm going to kill that guy literally right now, and I called the cops, I'm not breaking privilege. So there are exceptions. And I'm pretty sure, and I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure there is an exception that you're not breaching some sort of law by revealing a privileged conversation, whether it's by an attorney and a non-attorney or just simply two people like you and I talking.
See, I told you on Tuesday we could tie this all to the free speech issue. Just tie it all together about what you can say, what you can't say, where you can say it, and where you can't say it. And basically, that's what we're. No, don't even. Yeah.
Warren, Warren, trust me. I think I can simply wrap that up in one sentence. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Free speech is not completely free. Remember, you cannot scream fire in a crowded theater.
That's what I said on Tuesday, and somebody said that was. I said that Tuesday, and somebody said that they thought that was taken out of context. But there are definitely things that I read after the show. I was curious. There are things you cannot say for. There's a list of 5 or 6 things that you can't do, and some of it's. A lot of it is threatening a president is one of them, but there's like 5 or 6 of them like that. I did not see the fire one, but there's a few of them. There's definitely exceptions of free speech. There's 6.
Well, there's a difference between killing the president versus wishing the president was dead.
Right.
So,
and then we talked about that too on Tuesday, which was intention versus nudge kind of thing, which was a whole January 6th thing. Did Trump and his family say, let's go, storm the Capitol? Or, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea maybe if somebody, did something kind of like that? And that's what they're trying to do now, is trying to figure out whether this whether this was how much intention was in those messages coming back and forth between the family and to the public and to the right wings that went out there. And again, that's a whole thing of free speech, and it does tie together with the phones and everything like that. But yeah.
Let's go ahead and end that at that point here. I know it was a good conversation. We could go on for another 40 minutes here talking about this topic, but I think it was a fascinating subject. Yeah, maybe an hour. That was a fascinating subject, but there is one more topic I wanted to get in this week, and that was the fact that Apple released their repair program. As we all know, as most of us know, we talked about this in previous shows, that Apple announced they were going to have a new Apple repair program, self-service repair program for the iPhone, and they're going to have it for the iPad and for the Mac and for all. It seems like many of their products. I have a link in show notes here about their press release, and as they announced this actually was announced yesterday as we record, that it's going to be available in the U.S. and it'll expand to other countries beginning in Europe later this year. We'll have 200 individual parts and tools, enabling customers to experience the complexities of repairing electronic devices. So they're going to include the iPhone 12, the iPhone 13. They're going to have the iPhone SE 3rd generation. And you're going to be able to replace things like the display, the battery, and the camera. So they have a site. You just go to support.apple.com/self-service repair. Links in there, show notes, and you'll be able to go there. One of the unique things I found here was this massive kit that they're going to be sending out to fix your iPhone here. This kit's actually going to be for pulling the display off and putting it back on again. And I'm not sure. I guess it's a rental. You pay $49. Rent this device.
There's an option.
Yeah,
rent as
well. You could probably buy it, but I can't imagine it being very cheap. It includes a battery and display press, protective covers, and screwdrivers. So, and also you actually can go, and there's places I've got a link here as well on how you can go to download these manuals and take a look at them yourselves and just kind of read through them. So, Warren, you being the IT guy and like to tinker with things, what are your thoughts on this? I think this is a great thing that Apple's doing, but it's not going to be for everybody.
Maybe in my younger days, I could barely see the monitor at this point. So seeing tiny, ribbon cables and all that doesn't sound exciting for me. But I guess my only point is, if how much of it is actually fixing on your own, at that point, right? Like, if this machine was literally, it might be for all I know, but if this machine was literally like almost like the Belkin screen box that they have at the Apple stores, where you stick this thing in the machine and you go like a credit card machine, and the screen comes off in a nice way, and then you put the new screen right on top and go, and now it's back. I mean, that's
you're good at that.
that's close. I mean, are you actually repairing it at that point? What are you doing at that point? Are you repairing your own device, or are you like buying this like machine from Apple, or renting this machine from Apple that does kind of most of the work? I mean, if you don't, this thing that you're renting or possibly buying has to be worth something, because you could, there was ways to take iPhones apart, and there still is now without this machine. So, and to work on it. So I'd be curious to see what this machine does other than, I don't know. What does it do? Did anybody look at it?
Well, it's doing the display and pulling the case apart. So that's really what it's doing.
Okay, so you're putting in there is basically taking. So, I haven't taken apart a phone since like the 10 or 11 maybe.
Oh yeah, it's been a while for me.
But there used to be screws somewhere, like there used to be, somehow you got the screws by prying off the cover. Maybe it was one with a home button. It's been a while. So, but I mean, again, the point is there was ways to take this thing apart before this machine existed. So I'm curious of what you're doing, and I'm curious of how much, it really is appeasing the right to repair people. Probably the manuals, I would guess, more so than this machine, I guess, or this box is something that they're interested in and happy about.
Yeah.
And it also depends if this manual, if you looked at it, do you need the machine to follow along, like with the phone, or can you do it without the machine?
Yeah. But right now, this is just the iPhone. Go ahead if you have a thought, Michael.
I have a question. So, if you use this kit from Apple, does this still keep your phone under warranty?
No, this is for out of warranty.
This is for
repairs.
out of warranty work.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then I don't know.
Wait, it's for iPhone 13s.
So it's 12, 13s, and SE.
Yeah, but there's no 13 that's not out of warranty.
Yeah, it's compatible with that. But with it under warranty, there's no point in doing this yourself.
Right.
Sure it is. If you don't have Apple Care.
But if the screen's cracked, maybe you don't have Apple Care. There's another reason. Yeah, the screen's cracked. That's probably one of it, because you have to pay for that.
Yeah, or the back is cracked, or any whatever. If you drop your phone, that's it's for any phone, right?
But quite frankly, if you're going to spend $50 on a kit, and then on top of that, you got to spend the time, and quite frankly, I think the four of us, I think a little bit more savvy, we could probably quote unquote figure it out. However, I don't think the average user is going to want to go, I got to get this kit, I got to figure this out, and not do it all correctly, when they could just go to some repair shop, and even if since it's not going to be done under warranty, who cares?
Well, Dave posted the article about the comparison on the 13 between yourself, and then how much it would cost.
There's a comparison to what's going to be with going and bringing it to a Genius Bar or third party authorized repairs.
The cost is pretty similar.
They said it's a slightly lower cost,
about 20,
and it's mostly the fact that it's going to be somebody who wants to tinker, who wants to take the time to do this. So this is not going to be for most people, I think, really what it is.
But if you're doing, I don't want to say a shop, but if you have a side gig or something like that, and have people bring your phone to you, no. There's that one. That's the one disclaimer. You have to put in the IMEI number, and you have to put the serial number in, and that's the only way you're going to be able to get the parts. And then you have to send the parts back that came from that particular device, because they know that was part of that particular device. So they're not going to allow a repair shop, let's say, to get on this site and start ordering parts willy nilly.
Well, but I agree with Warren. I think it's Apple's response to get ahead of the right to repair, and by showing the public that this is a pain in the butt, and it's just not as easy as you think, and there's a lot of costs and parts involved. that I think Apple's trying to get ahead of the governments that are considering possibly regulating them because of the right to repair issue.
Absolutely.
And trying to break down that monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
They're laughing now. They're saying you think this is hard. Wait till we release a thing for the M1 Mac.
Pull down the manuals. You can actually, if you want to have some light reading, they do have the manuals available to anybody. So you can just get those for free. You can just download the manuals if you really want to look.
But just for the phones,
right now it's just iPhone. They're looking to expand later with this, but it's great to see.
They're going to sell a kit for the M1 MacBook Pro, like a box that comes out. It's going to be like 5 times the size of
another
it.
M1 MacBook Pro. Put the old one in and send it back.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
It's going to be like a big chest machine that they ship you. They come in with like the FedEx freight guys, and then you put your M1 MacBook Pro in there, and you close it, and you go. You come out and everything's replaced. Screen's off.
I did link in the show notes some great articles on this topic, and also iFixit had their say on it, and they're saying there's a caveat in there as well. But I guarantee iFixit is very happy to see that this is happening. That you have that right to repair, because you have the right to buy the parts and from iFixit if you so wish to, and other resellers. So. It's definitely going to be a good thing. So, did you have anything else, Jeff, or any other buddy before we go ahead and wrap up here?
I can't imagine I'm ever going to do this. I mean, I replaced the back camera glass on an iPhone 10, and I finished that, and I was like, this was a simple repair, and I never want to do this again.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous how much work goes into just popping off the old glass and putting a new, it's just a little lozenge piece. But
you get like this drunk confidence before you start, and then afterwards it's like right. I was like that with my when I tried to replace I tried to put a SSD drive in a iMac, an older iMac, and I'm like, it is easy. Yeah. And
I remember you cracked the screen.
No, I didn't crack the screen. I broke the cable. I broke the ribbon cable.
The ribbon cable.
Not the cable itself, but the connector on the motherboard snapped off, so it was done. Yeah, it was sound like no more. No more.
I came home 20 years ago, and I was a little tipsy, and I ended up installing some RAM and a hard drive in my laptop. It wasn't an Apple at the time.
We all
because I'm like, why not?
Right.
When you built PCs after drinking.
Who hasn't done a drunk upgrade?
This is drunk upgrades.
This is what nerds do. I mean, when it's fine.
I thought I was special.
You're talking to the right group. We might do it tonight when we're done with the show.
Yeah,
but I do miss the ability to put in my own extra RAM or replace the hard drive on my Macs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well. It's going that way with not just Apple, everywhere. So,
I don't miss
Bill, I think we had some absolutely fascinating conversations this week. This was a great show, but let's go ahead and wrap it up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show. Buy me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We'd really appreciate it. You also can become a Patreon. We're now doing Patreon at patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. The link is in the show notes. As well as you can make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming, which is on Thursday nights, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you make sure you go to that link, which is youtube.com/DaveG65. I'm also on visiting the In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discussed are going to be flipped into that magazine. Go ahead and check that out. The link is also in the show notes. You can also subscribe to the show on your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. And Michael D.J. Eisenberg, thank you so much for being here. Please let everybody know where they can find you.
You could find me at the techcellular.page and also listen to me at the techcellular.page podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, including Libsyn and Apple iTunes podcasts.
Great. Thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it. It was great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Please have me back.
Yes, absolutely. And then Jeff Gamet, as always, a thrill always having you here. Let everybody know. And I didn't forget you this time compared to my voices. Where can everybody find you?
Well, first, thanks as always for letting me come back. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, JGamet on both, youtube.com/JGamet for my videos. And Tuesdays, even though you might have forgotten, I say that with love. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know.
Tuesdays, Mac Voices Live. Thursday around lunchtime on the Big Show, Friday mornings on the Mac Show, and then of course Thursday evenings every time Dave lets me come back on In Touch with iOS. Oh, and Brian Chaffin and I have teamed up for the Context Machine, so we're doing a show together.
That's a great show. Thank you so much. And Warren Sklar, as always, thanks for being here. Where can people find you?
We don't worry about that, Mike. It was fun. It was good to meet you. And yeah,
likewise, sir.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to you again in future shows.
Still tell people where you can find you on Facebook.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, I'm on Facebook, the Mac to the Future web page, which is just a low key. Sometimes today was a little wacky. I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I did see a few wacky things posted this morning.
We have some members who evidently, get drunk and post, but I guess it happens. They should be upgrading their RAM and their hard drives like everybody else.
Well, thanks again, Warren. Really appreciate it. And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk again soon.